friends, good afternoon. This is Titus from Shalom classes. So today we are going to discuss for 12th class English chapter number or lesson number 1, the last lesson. That is for CBSE board and class 12 chapter number or the lesson number 1 from the book of Flamingo. So friends, before going to start this lesson, I would like to ask you some question, or not some question. I would ask to you only one question, and you have to think that answer in your mind. As we are Indian, we have various languages in our country. Especially if I think I'm from Odisha and now I'm staying in Rajasthan and I occupied this state as per my own state. If I say I'm an Indian and from Rajasthan, so my mother tongue is Hindi. So if there will be any rule, and by that rule, that would say, hence there will be no teaching of Hindi, or in place of Hindi, there will be some other language. So, what will be my reaction? If I ask you the same question, if you are in different part of this country and you have different language, if there will be a order that your own language will be not taught in your school, in place of that another language will be taught in your school, then what will be your reaction? So these things is happen in according to this story. This has happened in France. So here there is a clear picture of the last lesson. So before going to analyze this chapter or going to give you summary of this chapter, I want to tell you the little biography of this chapter. The author of this chapter is Alphonse Daudet. He was born 1840 and died 1897. He was a French novelist and a short story writer. The last lesson is set in the days of Franco-Prussian War, 1870 to 1871. During this war, France defeated by Persian, or it became finally the part of German. So from that day, it was ordered in France there should not be teaching of French. Instead of French, there should be teaching of German. So that is why that was the day of last class of French. So that is why this lesson is named the last lesson. You may think that this is the first lesson of my book, but why it is written the last lesson? So that I told you. So let us begin the summary of this chapter. Always I tell you the summary. Why? Because if you hear clearly the summary, you can understand the whole chapter story, and when there will be long answer, that will be helpful to write the answers, because there are 100 words, 120 words as per long answers. So we have to think more and more vocabularies and more sentence. So when we hear more and more summary, then that would be helpful to write long answers. So there are two major characters in the story. There are other characters also, but two major characters in this story. One is a boy whose name is French, and another the master of French whose name is M.M.L. So here the story or this lesson starts from the reaction of the boy French. One day, French just thought for going to school, and he he was getting ready for going to school, and in between his mind a little bit changed. Instead of going to school, he wanted to go to see the march past of the soldiers. And that was very sunny day, and the sunshine was so bright. And because of that reason, he wanted to enjoy with the sunshine and the brightness of the sun, and he wanted to hear the, that sweet voice of the birds, and to get fresh air. So he wanted to spend such kind of time. But somehow he resisted his temptation, and finally he decided, anyhow, he need to go to the school. Why he was not willing to go to the school? Because he got an assignment as per his homework, and he has to prepare that, and by that way, when he will be in the school, he has to represent that, but yet he doesn't have any idea how to represent. He doesn't know any alphabet, how to read there, and how to submit that assignment. That was the major problem. If without having assignment, if he will go to the school, definitely he will be scolded by his teacher, either he will be beaten by his teacher. That was the fearful thing, and because of that reason also, he doesn't want to go to the school. Anyway, now he is started for school, and he is going to the school. As he was going to the school, and in between there is a town hall, and before of the town hall a crowd was there, and those people are in the crowd. They are watching the bulletin board. Bulletin boards means that is notice board, what the things are happening in the city or in the country, that is being written there, and there is something information. Now this day we have the television. Through that television we get knowledge. We have radio, and through the radio we get the events of the country. But those days, by the bulletin board, they will get what is going on in the country or in the state. They were getting the knowledge from the bulletin board or from the notice board. So, friends, all were watching the notice board or the bulletin board. He was passing, and he was going to the school because he was late, so that he was going very fast. He was just like a running condition, and taking his breath, and having a heavy bag. He was going to his school. But in between, he was there. While the people are standing there, he thought he would see that why the people are standing there, but he understood there might be a news. Because of that reason, the people are there. So he thought, for 2 years, I have been reading this in the notice board. Always I am getting the news of war only, how the French defeated by the German, etc., etc., etc. Today, the same news might be there. I don't want to waste my time. I should go ahead. So he was going there, met a blacksmith, and he also told, there is no need to go very fast to your school. When he heard, he couldn't understand what's the meaning behind of his talking. He thought that is just like a joke, or that is just like a fun. Somehow he took his breath and ran very fast. And when he entered the gate of the school, that was full of, or that was the different environment in the school. He amazed when he reached the school. He was surprised that the terrible silence that surrounded the school. It seemed more like Sunday than a working day. His friends were in the class, and he had to enter the class in front of everyone. He was surprised that instead of scolding him, his teacher, M. Hamel was kind to him and told him to take his seat. There were so many differences when he regularly entered the class. There is noise and shouting and screaming. All things are there. But today that was full of silence. He was expecting that his teacher must be scold him. But when he reached, his teacher didn't say anything else. Kindly, he said, "Take your place." That was also very, 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 very surprised thing for him, and he surprised also. He felt that the day is just like a Sunday or some other holiday. After reaching the classroom, he noticed some unusual things also there in the school. What is the unusual things? After friends settled down, he noticed the teacher was wearing beautiful green coat, his frilled shirt and his little black silk cap with embroidery on it. This dress or this suit, coat, cap, and shirt, this is for him for wearing when there is inspection of the school, or when there is some prize distribution program of the school. But this is a normal day. How or why the teacher wear it? That is the question. That is something unusual for him. After sitting his class, he surprised. The atmosphere was very calm and quiet, and the village elders, they have also sat last line or last row of the classroom. That was also surprised him, and all the people or the students, they become very sad and they looks very sad. In between, Mr. M. Hamel, one who is the teacher of the school or French teacher of the school, he mounted on his chair and suddenly he started to speak, or he announced that it was their last French lesson, as the order had come from Berlin that only German was to be taught in the school of Alsace and Lorraine. France was shocked to hear this, and suddenly his books, which had seemed to burden, and that became so light for him. Now he understood why the people are looking very sad, why the children are looking very sad, why the class is absolutely calm and quiet, why the children are not speaking, not shouting, not speaking, not screaming, why the people, those who have sat behind of the bench, why they become very sad. Usually the villagers do not come to the school, but today it might be a special day. Because of that reason only they have come to the school. He got the answer why they are in the school classroom. Now he began to repent about himself. He began to repent about himself. And he started to think that why I lost my days. I supposed to prepare this lesson. I supposed to study more and more. I supposed to work hard more and more. But instead of studying, I have spent a lot of days. I have spent a lot of days by fishing, by taking the day for resting or doing work in farm or doing work in mills. So he has wasted many days, and he began to repent that, and he began to think about that. He also regretted missing the school so often. When the class started, he heard his name being called out and recite the rules or principle which he was unable to do. He was asked to say the rules of principle, but he was unable to do. That was very sad for the teacher, and that was very sad for the student also. When the things happened, now Mr. Hamel started to blame. First of all, he blamed to the parents because the parents they are responsible for such a condition of the childlike friends. They have no guided to their children to go proper time to the school, and most of the time they sent them for fishing or they sent them for working in mine or working in farm or etc. Then secondly, he blamed to the children. Especially the children, they were also neglecting their class. They are also not coming to their school in proper time, or they are going to mines for working, or mills for working, or farm to working, but they are not coming to the school, and they have most of the time neglected to coming of the school. That was the reason for the poor knowledge. Even they are friends. Today they have no knowledge about their own language. That was very miserable things, and that was very sadful thing for them. If I am a Hindi man or Odia man, if I can't speak Hindi or if I can't write Hindi, so what does mean it? That means my study is very poor, or either I am not interesting for my own language. It is true that we are studying in English medium. It doesn't mean we have to forsake our own language. English is international language that is need. Yeah, that is need for our higher education. But our mother tongue, that is also need for our basic. That should be there. But instead of having that, the child doesn't have any knowledge. It is very sadful time for him. Then he accused or blamed himself also. He said, most of the time I gave you holidays. When you come, we need holidays. I gave you holidays. Most of the time I told you to work in the garden, and because of that reason, you missed your classes. Parents, teacher, and students. Three are responsible for this neglectness. Then, after saying this, he started to, teach them. Very patiently, he started to teach them. Today, as he was teaching, that was something different than other days. He was teaching us. He wanted to give all his knowledge in the last class or in this last day. Or how he was teaching, or the children were very silent, they were writing, or they were writing and listening only. There was sound only pen and paper. Even there was a bug that was moving in front of them, but they didn't pay attention toward them because their mind is only for studying. In between, there was a bird, it was sang. Then he thought, it may be the bird is singing, and it will be, that forcefully to say him to sing in German. Is it possible? He thought in his mind. And how the teacher was teaching, he understood that very clearly. Before, he was not able to understand, but today, whatever the teacher taught him, very clearly he understood that. That was very joyful day, and only for that reason he repented. If the same thing would happen in previous day, he is supposed to be a brilliant boy for his own language, for the French language, but that hadn't happened. Anyway, Now, Mr. Hamel made people realize the importance of their mother tongue. Eh? So he said, almost 40 years I worked hard over here. Nothing hard changed here except a desk or benches or table, or the trees are growing or the plant are growing on outside or the inside the garden of the school that become little bit taller, but nothing has been changed. He worked hard to improve the French language. That is why he told the French language is very what a good language, and that is something very highly language in the world. That shows his pride for his country or his pride for his language. The last time what happened there, Mr. Hamill just showing his patience. That was the last time Mr. Hamill, how somehow he hold his patience, and then he started to do something. The chants of the children to chant the alphabet, even the old villagers joined in. After some time, the clock struck 12, and it was time for the class to end. Sharp 12 o'clock, the church bell always rings, and sharp 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock morning time, and 6 o'clock evening time. But when the clock stopped, that means the class would be off or the class would be closed. So that was the sign of them. And now he wants to end the class, or due to that reason, Hamel stood up from his chair, but when he started to speak something, shocked him. That shocked him. He couldn't speak. He couldn't speak. And that was shocked him, overcome with motion. He went to blackboard and wrote, Vive la France. The meaning is long live France. And then leaned against the wall and dismissed the class with a gesture. So, students or my dear friends, it is very emotional story. A person, one who is, one who was teaching almost 40 years a particular language in a particular school or to a particular community, that was very hard for him to leave the students, and that was very hard for him to leave the village, and that was very hard for him to leave the school. That is very emotional story. When I read, I thought, if it will be like me, if I worked in a school 40 years, and suddenly if there will be transfer, so what will happen? What kind of feeling will be there in my heart? I always love to my students most of the time. I always think about my students or my special subject. If I feel my opportunity is going to be end, what will be my condition? Like the same thing happened in this chapter. So next time I will meet you with important points and important question answer, and as well as the major characters of Hamel and the major character of Friends. Thank you. May God bless you. Good day. Before leaving, I would request you to subscribe my channel as well as put the like button or dislike button. Thank you. May God bless you.